Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben's award-winning podcast, as voted by Grow Your Own magazine and by my followers and listeners. So if you're new to the podcast, make sure you click that subscribe button to stay up to date with all our podcasts, listen back to all our previous episodes, sit back, grab a brew and let's enjoy today's episode. Hello and welcome back to Gardening with Ben's Allotment podcast. I hope you're all well and I hope you're enjoying all the podcasts. If you're new to this podcast, don't forget to click the subscribe button and you'll get notified when new episodes are uploaded, and they are uploaded on a regular basis, sometimes daily but sometimes not, so hopefully we get lots done. So in the title of this podcast it's Have You Got All Your Seeds Planted in January? What needed planting? Well, I've certainly been cracking on my plot and I've certainly got some seeds planted, but some seeds you can actually wait until later, until it gets a bit warmer, because you need that warmth to help them germinate. Sometimes we've not all got the shelves inside the house to start them off on. Sometimes we've not got these grow lights what help get them started, and sometimes when you try growing them inside in the warmth they get leggy and they're fighting for the light, so it's not always a win-win situation to grow them inside in a house. You're sometimes better off waiting until it gets a bit warmer in the greenhouse to start them off in. But some seeds we have got started. So what seeds needed sowing in January if you haven't already sown them? And you can still probably sow a lot of these still now, but we'll go through each one and we'll see what can still be sown now and if you have sown them. So we'll start off with the vegetables. So for the vegetables you can still sow broad beans. If you've not sown your broad beans, get some in the ground now. You can plant them straight in the ground, or you can start them off in pots. Starting them off early stops the black fly from forming on them, because they will be ready to harvest before the black fly even appears. Rather than sowing them in April time, sow them now and you won't have the black fly issue. But you can always start a second lot off in April if you want, so then you can get another crop. But if you start them off now you won't get any black fly on them. Celery does need to be started in January. It needs a long time to grow. They won't germinate though in a cold greenhouse, so you need them somewhere warm. So if you've got a windowsill, you need to start them off on a windowsill to get them to germinate, or if you've got a heater propagator, something like that, to get them going. Onions, I've started all my onion seeds off and they are getting going now. They're just starting to sprout through in the greenhouse, but again you need some warmth to get them to germinate. So either start them off in the house and then move them to the greenhouse once they start growing, but you do need some heat to get them to germinate. And I'm growing all my onions from seeds this year rather than sets, and if you want nice big ones you need to start them off nice and early. Potatoes, everywhere has potatoes in now. All the supermarkets, all the garden centres. If you're wanting to chit them, a lot of people chit them, which means that they put them in trays with the eyes facing up and they will start sprouting. Now is the time to be starting to chit your potatoes in the greenhouse. They need to be somewhere that is not too moist, and they need to be in a frost-free place to start them off chitting. So what fruit should you have planted this month if you're wanting to start some fruit? You can still plant all your fruit trees. I've noticed a lot of supermarkets have got fruit trees in at the moment. I personally got my Victoria plum tree from a supermarket 16 years ago, and that is the best plum tree that I've had and ever tasted. And if I recommend anyone, get the Victoria plum tree what is in the supermarkets at the moment. So yeah, I would highly recommend that. Sometimes it's best off to get two to help with pollination, but Victoria plum tree, I've seen them in supermarkets now and they are fantastic to grow. They'll take a while to get going obviously, but they are worth every single penny. Raspberries, now is the time to be planting your raspberry canes. Again, supermarkets have got them all in now, quite cheap, but also raspberry canes are quite cheap to get off other people as well. If somebody else is growing raspberries and they're growing in the wrong place and they're digging them up, ask them if you can have the canes so that you can plant them in the garden, because they grow everywhere. They're worse than weeds. Once they get going, they'll grow anywhere and everywhere. So ask around, ask other plot holders if they've got any spare raspberry canes and pass them on. That's what I've done this year. I've given my neighbour some autumn raspberry canes to grow on his plot. So yeah, raspberries, and I do recommend the autumn variety if you are going to grow any. Rhubarb. You can grow rhubarb seed this month. You won't be able to pull it for 2 years though. Once it's growing, it needs to settle into the ground once you've planted it into the ground. But you can start rhubarb seeds off now, and also you can plant your rhubarb crowns as well now if you are wanting to grow rhubarb. Again, do not pull in the first year. It needs to settle into the ground, and then you can pull it the year after. I know you may be tempted when you see the delicious rhubarb growing on it, but don't do it. Stay away from it. So what flower seeds need to be sown this month? As you know, I have purchased so many flowers, and I need to go through them all and see what needs to be sown each month. But here are 3 that you can start in January. Snapdragons. They need to be started off on a warm windowsill or somewhere that's nice and warm. If you've got a heater in your greenhouse, excellent, but you can start your snapdragons off now. They need a long time to grow, so get them started now if you want to grow some snapdragons. Sweet peas, they can be started now. I've started mine off. I've placed a damp piece of kitchen roll in a Tupperware box, laid all the sweet peas on it, closed the Tupperware box, and everyone's germinated. Once they germinate, then you can pop them in a pot and continue them growing in your greenhouse, and you will get some fantastic sweet peas. They are one thing that you should grow in your garden or allotment. You can keep cutting the flowers off, filling your vases up, and the more you cut them, the more they will grow, and they smell absolutely beautiful as well, and the bees love them. Lobelia. If you're wanting to start some lobelia off for pots or for hanging baskets and stuff like that, start these off this month in a heated greenhouse or on a windowsill, and impress your neighbours with those hanging baskets. And yeah, certainly worth off growing lobelia. They're very tiny seeds, but they are absolutely worth it. So that's all the seeds that you can be starting off now. Obviously I've gone over this before in one of my previous episodes at the beginning of the month, but those are all the seeds what you could sow in January. In a few days time we'll be going over what seeds can be sown in February, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you do click that subscribe button, and then you'll get notified when the new episodes are uploaded. So yeah, what seeds are you going to be sowing this weekend? I have heard rumours that it is going to snow soon, so be prepared for that. Obviously I've recorded this on Thursday, so I don't know what temperatures are going to be like without looking on the weather forecast, but they're not always right. But yeah, I've recorded all these in advance so that the episodes still go out while I'm working, because I didn't put any episodes out when I was working the other time, and figures drop off, so I want to keep the podcasts coming regularly, so I've recorded 4 episodes all in one day just to keep you all going. Thank you for those that do listen to these podcasts. It does mean the world to me, and the more people that listen to it, it encourages me to keep recording them. So thanks for that, and keep sharing them as well. Keep sharing them on your Instagram stories. It's fantastic when people share them as well. It reaches new people and new audiences, and other people start listening to them as well, which really does make my day if people share them as well. And leave a review as well, if you enjoy it, that is. Don't leave a review if you don't enjoy it. But yeah, thanks for those that do listen to it, and thanks for those that do send me messages as well, saying that they've listened to them. It's great to hear who does actually listen to them, because there's loads of people that listen to them, but I don't know who does. So it's quite interesting to find out who actually listens to them. So until next episode, remember, keep smiling, keep gardening, and keep listening to Gardening with Ben's podcasts. So thank you for listening to today's episode of Gardening with Ben. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode. Remember to do click that subscribe button to stay up to date with all our podcasts. Feel free to share them on your Instagram stories so that it spreads the word about my podcast and we get lots more listeners. Feel free to check out my social media sites, Facebook and Instagram as well, Gardening with Ben, and also my YouTube channel, to stay up to date with all my handy videos, how-to videos, and sharing my tips and advice. And feel free to check the link as well in the description for my Gardening with Ben t-shirts. Lots of funny gardening design t-shirts in there for you to purchase at great prices too. So thanks again, and as always, remember, keep smiling and keep gardening.